All right, we're going to go over some chimney flashing. So this is going to be the basics of what we do to install our chimney flashing. So of course, for beginners, we try to get our metal as tight as possible to the chimney. First line of defense would always be to get that metal tight, put a bead of sealant, just sealing the metal to the chimney if at all possible. And I'll kind of do that during the install process, so I'm not slopping sealant all over everything. So what I do is I hold up my bottom flashing, get it in place. If I need to give it a little bit of bend here, a little bit of bend there, I want it to sit down on the roof metal tight, and to have a little bit of pressure against the chimney tight. If it's flapping up on the chimney, I'll give it a bend without kinking the crease, and just try to get everything to fit tight as we can before we even start cutting. Once we got a decently tight fit, so the thickness of that lip up top, we'll just call it a 1/2 inch for the sake of argument. So if I got a 1/2 inch on that lip up top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a pencil mark about a 1/2 inch out on each side, because when you do that side trim is going to have that same 1/2 inch lip. So we'll hold our trim up in place, mark a 1/2 inch on the left, a 1/2 inch on the right. We make sure that we've got about 5 or 6 inches of material sticking out both sides of the chimney. Mark left side, mark right side on the top lip. Then what you're going to do is, with it still holding it in place, you got to reach over around the back side of the trim. Hold your pencil flat against the chimney. You don't want to be angling it. You want to run that pencil right tight against the side of the chimney. Rub it right up and down the chimney to get a nice pencil mark on the back side of your trim. Do that on both sides. It's kind of tricky to do without moving the trim around. Sometimes I will tack a screw in the front of my front piece, just so it doesn't move on me. Maybe tack one screw in the center. Get those sides marked. Now you pull it up. This is what you're looking at. You got kind of some scribbly marks there. And what we're going to do is, from that scribbly mark, I want to go out about 1.25 inches on the bottom. So we'll put about 1 inch, 1.25 inch flare. Probably 1 inch would be fine. About 1 inch flare on the bottom of each of the sides. And then we'll take our speed square, going from our top pencil mark. What we're really concerned about is our 1/2 inch mark that we made on that lip up top. We're going to go from that top mark on our lip on an angle down to that extra inch mark that we made each side. So we mark that angle each side. And then what we're going to do is our top lip, we make a little V cut on the top lip where that pencil mark was. And then you can see here, if we zoom in, I kind of marked it out. Again, you're looking for about a 5 inch overlap of extra material on each side. This is where it gets a little bit tricky on where you cut and where you fold. So I marked here kind of where the cuts are, where the folds are. Nice clean cut. And then when I'm ready to fold it, I'll take my speed square and put my speed square right on the fold line, and that will help me get a nice crispy bend on that fold. So we got those sides folded up. We left the little flappers on the outsides. Those little flappers on the far outsides get kind of pushed down flat. And you'll see as you put the piece back around the chimney, you see how the folds come around the chimney, and then those little flappers that we left on the sides, we kind of mash those down to lay flat against the roof. So now again, we're going to get this situated as good as we can. We want the best fit before we even put a screw on it. So we kind of give it a little bit of bend, a little bit of flex, make sure it's tight on the roof, tight on the chimney. Probably tack a screw right there in that center high rib. Don't put your screws way down on that bottom edge. You want that screw a good fat inch and a quarter up from the bottom edge. The other thing that I do is on these side flaps that we folded over, a lot of times I'll cut that 1/4 inch off of there, just so that fits a little tighter and doesn't end up getting in the way of our side piece when we put our side piece on. So we basically have this front piece ready to go, ready to install. This is where I'd take some sealant and just goop the heck out of and try to seal the chimney to the metal before I install this thing. Just really concerned about the bottom edge and the bottom corners. I goop the heck out of that, put the trim piece in place, tack one screw in it just to hold it. Now we start looking at our side trim. Put the side trim in place. This one here, see, I left that 5 inches sticking out of the bottom. Now we need to trim that up to where we actually want it. So I'll kind of do a little dry fit there, figure out where I want to cut my bottom piece, run a square, trim it up. You see how that fits a lot nicer underneath my side flashing. So I'll bring that side flashing down nice and flush with the bottom edge. And we basically do the same thing with our pencil. We do the old pencil trick where we have to mark the side flashing with the pencil, rubbing it nice and straight against the chimney. You mark the front, and this is the real tricky one, is reaching up on the back side and running your pencil to mark the back side. So you get the pencil mark on the back, a pencil mark on the front. Again, from our pencil mark, I add that inch and a quarter, and then that's where I actually strike my line. So on the bottom of the chimney, I extended an inch down. On the top of the chimney, I extended an inch up. So this is how we kind of do the cuts on the bottom edge. I leave that little triangle sticking out on the bottom edge. The top edge, you see how we run some angles in there, kind of mark where we cut, where we fold. Gets a little tricky here, just kind of pay attention to what you're doing. Fold the back side, folds around, the front side just gets, our little triangle up front. And then that triangle, I fold it over and figure out how much of it I want to leave, cut it off clean. What do we do there that looks the nicest? You see how I tuck these screws, these 2 screws on the side? Those aren't going into the brick. Those are just flashing to flashing. So tacking a screw in, tack that flashing to flashing on that bottom corner. There's kind of how I finished off that little triangle detail, how I folded it over, cut it a little cleaner, just so it finishes that corner off. This is the back side. You see how that flapper gets pushed down. And then you repeat that. Same thing both sides. Just repeat on the other side. Then you're ready for the back pan. Back pan again, you want about 5-6 inches sticking out each side. Push her tight against the chimney, mark with your pencil. Again, you're going to extend your bottom inch and a quarter each side. So there's your, mark that with your speed square. It's going to go out to the extended line on the bottom. This is where you cut. Do that both sides. This is kind of what it looks like after you've cut everything. You leave your wings sticking out both sides. Now again, you're going to dry fit this to the back side of the chimney. If you need to bend it, flex it, get it to fit as tight as you can. If you need to do any trimming on that top lip to get it to fit tight against the brick, sometimes you've got oddball bricks sticking out and you need to make some fine-tune adjustments to that lip. So again, we get it in place and we're putting those screws, and again, we're just screwing flashing to flashing. Those screws aren't going into the brick. You're getting it screwed flashing into flashing, and you only got maybe a 1/4 inch to hit where you're going flashing to flashing, and the screw isn't going to hit the brick and screw you up. You could see on the back side, I had to do a little bit of cutting on that top lip to get everything to fit tight. Had to do a little bit of custom cutting back there. This is what it looks like on the back side. You see how that inch that I added is going to kick the water away from that little leak point in that corner. That was the same premise on the bottom side. Extending it helps kick the water away from the little leak point. So now we can, if you got a 6 or an 8 inch piece of metal that would go up top, or if the chimney were in the middle of the roof, this is then where you would start a new piece right up, leave about a 2-inch gap on the back side of the chimney, starting a new piece of metal that'll then continue to run all the way up to the ridge. Once everything's all in and good and fit, I'll go around the whole thing with some sealant, a real good quality sealant, sealing up the back side, sealing up the edges, sealing up the fronts. I even go in the little nooks and crannies, the inside edges where you see the white, where the white meets the black. I go up those edges on the back pan, left side, right side, and I go up those edges on the front side of the chimney, sealing those up as well. And that's basically the detail of a chimney.